Isn't it sad when those who you thought had your back, they were your friend, it turns out that's not the case at all and they betray you? That's how some people are starting to feel about Helldivers 2. Now, this is a live service game that took the world by storm a month or two ago. Very successful. We can see it's got over 300,000 almost Steam reviews, suggesting it was a huge commercial success. I believe it did even better on PC than the PS5, despite being a Sony-published game, so it was a juggernaut. Now, one of the reasons people were lauding it and were really happy with it is because the game itself, it wasn't political, it wasn't pushing agendas, it wasn't lecturing the audience about, oh, you need to have our worldview when it comes to politics. There was none of that, really. It was a game around entertainment first, fun, meant to be a good time. Now, I will say I'm not really big on the live service games, but if there's going to be one, this sounded like the best of the bunch. But the story, the lore, just the whole vibe of the game, it had everyone talking positively. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air for many people. Given all the crap we've had to deal with recently with the Sweet Baby Inks, you get things like the Fable remake, years ago, The Last of Us Part 2, all these games where you know it's not really about the game first. There's something else at play, something else, the message is the priority. But it's now seeming like the devs behind Helldivers 2 may be far worse than anyone thought. And it may have just been that because people like the gameplay of Helldivers, they ignored the writing on the wall, the truth, which is that the Helldivers 2 devs, they are just as woke, let's say, as every other studio out there, and they hate gamers, they hate their audience for the most part, and most people just ignored it, didn't want to see that, because they felt that Helldivers 2 was a fun game, and that all comes from originally the community manager on the Helldivers 2 team, who seems to be far more politically motivated than anyone was really expecting from this team. Now, I will say there's some nuance here. You shouldn't feel like, oh, I can only enjoy a game if the people who work there share the same political beliefs as me. I mean, you can feel that way, but you may want to ask yourself, is that something you want to be doing? Because I've always felt, when you think about free speech and just wanting to be able to play a game without politics, all that really is you just want to play a game, experience entertainment where you don't feel like you're being lectured to. I don't really care what the political beliefs of the people making the product are. I don't even really care what they're like as people. They might be assholes, but if they deliver a great product that I'm enjoying, that's all okay. They don't need to think the same as me, but the product itself, it's going to be good. And where this all came to a head is people with, I guess, very left-leaning views, for the most part, decided that they were going to cram their worldview into every game, and if you didn't agree with them, then you're a bad person. That is really where this became a problem. It's not as if I feel that if I play a game and someone who works there is maybe left-leaning, then I'm just not going to play anything or experience anything that they're involved in. I don't really think that's the best mindset. People should be able to think for themselves, but it comes down to, is the product a quality piece of entertainment? And for the longest time, that has not been the case. And that's why this Helldivers 2 stuff is a little bit of a worry. So what you see to start with is someone here on Twitter, on X, was looking at the community manager of the Helldivers 2 team, and she's kind of got the greatest hits of what you'd expect from a modern video game developer in 2024, where she's got the pronouns in the bio. She's only missing the blue or pink hair. Maybe she's dyed it since then, but you've also got the trans flag, of course, Ukraine, Palestine. I always ask the question, did you sort of think all these views through yourself and you've came to these conclusions, or are you just copying everyone else in the game developer community and you think you've got to think the exact same way as them? And that's where I think it's a problem. I don't care about someone's views on Israel and Palestine, but it's more about when I see all of this together, it just tells me that this person thinks one way and they think anyone who doesn't think like them is bad. And there is evidence for that as well. So this was originally brought to people's attention, and then, say, Mark Kern, Grums, did a bit of digging. And he says here, were we misled? Helldivers 2 was lauded for their anti-politics stance by all of us. Now Helldivers community manager clarified why they banned people asking for LGBT cape. So Early on, when the game came out, apparently there were people on Steam, on Twitter, I'm sure as well, who were asking for more representation. Please put our rainbow-coloured flags in the game. And then I believe the devs actually banned people for asking about it too much. And from there, I think some people were misguided. They thought that the devs were on their side, and they didn't want LGBT capes or whatever items in the game, and that's why they were banning them. And that led people to sort of think, oh, the devs are base. They're on our side. Things are going really well here. But that seems to have been a convenient coincidence. The devs actually love all of that stuff, and there was another reason for this. So as Mark Kern says, the reason the capes were banned, it wasn't for politics. It was to protect the devs from waves of hate speech, which our staff was struggling with emotionally, and that they only ban the bigots. Honestly, I don't know what to think. What exactly is the Helldivers community policy? And then we can see that same community manager had a post. This is after Helldivers 2 came out as well, so very recent. She had an exchange with someone where she says, Helldivers is pretty woke, dog. Game was made by a lot of LGBTQ and brown people and black people and women. It's a big satire of gingerism. It amuses me that they don't know that Super Earth is bad. It also explains a lot about the world at present. I don't know half of what she's talking about. All I see here is someone who is just totally down the rabbit hole of skin color is their identity, everyone else's identity. They don't care about people just being judged on their own merits. She just puts people in these little boxes. And if that mindset is shared by the wider team, which I've got to be honest, it probably is, just based on most video game studios these days, that there's very few that aren't corrupted like this. I can think of, say, Warhorse Studios, a European studio responsible for Kingdom Come Deliverance. Fantastic game, fantastic team, where they actually focused on historical accuracy instead of just putting in these woke agendas. And they were pressured on that, but they stuck to their guns. So there's a handful of studios, obviously the Stellar Blade team, who are focusing on gamers first, focusing on fun, entertainment. We're not going to be pressured. We're not going to just lecture people on our views. It's all about the fun. But this team, the Helldivers 2 team, I think people got their hopes up. It's another Sony-published game, and all their studios seem to be thinking along the same lines. The Naughty Dogs, Insomniac had this incredibly gross diversity training, which was ridiculous not too long ago, where you have to sit down and do days of days, get lectured to about how you're too white and you should feel guilty. All the Sony studios are like this, and Helldivers seems to be more of the same. The exchange continues. Someone replies to them here and says, didn't they ban people from their Discord for suggesting they add LGBT-coloured capes? So again, that's what people thought, that the team were banning people requesting LGBT-coloured capes with the flag on it. And then she says, no, we only ban the bigots, transphobes, homophobes, racists. They're not welcome in our community. We had to restrict the topics in the Helldivers 2 general chat for a while because it was triggering massive waves of hate speech, which our staff was struggling with emotionally. So it seems like what happened is there were a lot of people on Steam making threads, and some of those people happened to be asking for LGBT flags, and then there were probably comments responding to those people saying, no, do not just focus on politics in this game, let's focus on the immersion. That doesn't belong in the Helldivers 2 world. Please go away and bother someone else. Those were probably the comments, although maybe what they were saying was a little bit more colourful than that in terms of language. And then the Helldivers 2 community manager here, this team, they basically just banned all of those posts because there happened to be so-called hate speech in the replies. Now, it seems like the wider community took that as meaning that Helldivers 2 were just going to ban discussion of LGBT flags and that's it. But that was misguided. They only banned those threads because they were getting distressed about the hate speech in the comments. So that's what it really was all about. And they probably shot themselves in the foot because internally they seem to love these agendas, these politics, and they were made to look like they don't support LGBT. So that probably just stressed them further. That's probably why they were also struggling emotionally. Oh my goodness, it's all too hard. Making games, hardest job in the world. But it seems like many thought this studio was different. They were just going to do their own thing. They don't care about politics. it seems like that's just been misconstrued. They are the same as all the other Sony studios. And again, if you enjoy Helldivers 2, that's fine. You can ignore the white noise of the actual team members and all of this nonsense and keep playing the game. It's only really if they cram their worldview into the entertainment itself where it really becomes a problem. But I still think it's important to just get this out there, given there were certainly some people who thought, oh my god, based Helldivers 2 team, they're incredible. Not really, they're just like everyone else. We can also see some older comments and tweets from this person where she really gets into it. So she says here, I don't like the terms casual and hardcore because they come with the implication that skill equals passion. Those words are something that gamers cling to. Remember what I said about hating the audience? They see gamers as like this evil terminology, these evil people. That seems to be what most of these developers think. It's quite sad. Years ago, it seemed like every game developer was super passionate about what they did. It was long, hard work, but they did it because of the love of it. Now it seems like they're all resentful of the audience, which is a shame, and it shows with how many mediocre games come out. She says here, I'm not talking much because it's not my turn to talk. It's time for black people to be heard and for white people to listen. I want to continue to do everything I can to help, including passing the mic. I like how this is supposedly supportive of black people, to essentially say you can't talk until I give you permission to and give you the microphone. Probably not what she was going for. That is exactly what it sounds like. And all these people, it sounds like that. They actually see themselves as superior, and now they need to sort of step down the podium a little bit and allow black people to be heard. That to me sounds like supremacy. It sounds like racism, but do what you want to do. I'm so tired of games focusing on parent-child narratives, period, let alone male-centric ones. There are other relationships worth exploring in game. Yeah, we've heard this all before. LGBT relationships, that's what we should have. If we don't put a gay relationship in the game, it's a missed opportunity to lecture people and to shove an agenda down people's throats. That's how they see game stories, an opportunity to spread the message. You know what? I like games with female stories. I like women. I'd like to see more women doing things in games that aren't motivated entirely by men. It's why Jessie from Control is great and has a sibling story. I love game siblings. I have a feeling that despite saying this, she did not like Stellar Blade. That would have been the worst thing in the world in her mind. Oh my goodness, I'm going to cry myself to sleep. When she says female stories, it's going to be like Life is Strange, which is a fairly pathetic game from another fairly sad developer as well. Now, in typical fashion, what has happened since this has all been exposed, that the community manager, well, seems to not only hate white people, but seems much more focused on politics than doing her job correctly, focusing on the entertainment of the product. People have been mentioning this on Steam, and they've been getting banned. They've been having their posts removed. Discussion has been purged. Anyone who brings this up, the threads are being deleted. So it's more censorship. I think it's just really clear now that anyone who was holding the Helldivers 2 team up on a pedestal, you may want to take a step back from that. You can love this game, enjoy this game, I'm sure it's great, but the team itself, they're like any other Sony team. They're all the same worldview. If you don't think like them, they don't like you. These devs, they do not like their player base. That's very clear, and it may not be the whole team. There might be some cool people working there who unfortunately get bogged down, have to deal with this nonsense. But it's pretty clear that the people in communications, at the very least, dealing with us, they do not like you. They're upset, and now they're banning, purging discussion. So it's a bit of a shame. Everyone thought this Helldivers 2 team was different, focusing on the right things. That's why they had success. The truth is, it just happens to be another woke studio that happened to make a good game. And that's fine. You can enjoy that game once again. You can separate the views of that team from what you enjoy. It's all good. I do just want to end on this Sweet Baby Inc. Detected group. It has, I don't want to sort of sugarcoat this and exaggerate things. It has stagnated. So there was a period where it was rapidly rising, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. It was going up really, really quickly. It hasn't really moved much in the last sort of week or two, it seems like. It's sitting at 360,000. I think it was like 350,000 not too long ago. What I will say, just some feedback for this curator is it probably needs to expand from here, because a game is being sort of added, it looks like once a week, roughly, and that's probably not going to be enough to generate people's interest. I think when a new game is added on, it gets people talking about it. If you're just adding one every so often, and it's a game like the Crew Motorfest that no one really cares about, do they? Maybe I'm out of touch. Flintlock, these sort of titles no one's really heard of. I don't think it would be a bad thing to sort of say, all right, Sweet Baby Inc., this organization, it got people's eyes on the problem, which is agendas in video games, not focusing on the right things, entertainment first. So I see no problem with going any of these sort of woke consultancies. Why don't we just put all of those games on a curator like this? And there are others out there, but they're tiny in comparison to this one. So why not use this as a vehicle to expand this further? This is just my opinion, but I'd just like to see this grow, because this happens so much that a story blows up like the Sweet Baby stuff. Everyone talks about it for a couple of weeks, and then it disappears and no one really cares about it outside some real niche communities. So it'd be sad to see, because it was really nice to see people talking about why can't we get back to games just being fun, keep the politics out of it. You know what I mean by that? Games can be political, but it's got to be nuanced. Like you play Fallout New Vegas or Bloodlines, Vampire Bloodlines, the original, not the crappy new one that we barely hear about these days. It can be nuanced, but if it's talking down to you, if it's lecturing you as a player, it sucks, and that's why this curator blew up in the first place. So I hope it can be innovated on so that we can get some more eyeballs on it and it can keep growing, because that's what will keep the pressure on. Otherwise, these organizations, it's back to DEI, back to ESG, because the backlash has sort of worn off. But thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.